In a single moment, your life can change. Moments with Marianne is a transformative hour that covers an endless array of topics with the best of the best. Marianne's guests are leaders in their field, ranging from inspirational authors, top industry leaders, business and spiritual entrepreneurs. Each guest is gifted and a true visionary, a recognized leader in their own work. They teach others to develop, refocus, and grow. Marianne will bring the best guest and sometimes a special surprise. Don't miss this. And remember, make every moment count.
Welcome to Moments with Marianne. I'm so glad we're going to be spending this time here today. We've got quite a show lined up. Our first guest, Dr. Gabrielle Pelicci, is here today to talk to us about how to re-pattern perfectionism and 4 other fear-based habits that are holding you back. So many of you probably already know Dr. Gabby. She's a leading expert on holistic medicine and author of Blissful Business, TV host at the Health and Wellness Channel, and expert wellness blogger at Mind Body Green, as well as Huffington Post and Thrive Global. Dr. Gabby has traveled to over 40 countries and worked with thousands of clients, including celebrities and high-profile people, and has more than 2,000 hours of training in yoga, bodywork, meditation, and energy healing. Dr. Gabby also appears regularly on national local media such as MSNBC, the New York Post, and U.S. News and World. So let's welcome to the show Dr. Gabby.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Oh, what a joy it is to have you here. So you're like the go-to person when it comes to wellness and business. And so, gosh, I guess this is a perfect topic, especially for people that are maybe self-employed, entrepreneurs, or just people, throughout their daily experience. It's, how to repattern that perfectionism.
Yeah, I think it's an important topic. I think that we get stuck a lot of times in moving forward or achieving the goals that we set for ourselves, because we have some kind of self-defeating habits that are actually really easy to overcome, but we kind of get stuck on this sort of treadmill of patterns that hold us back, and then we don't have the quality of life. We don't achieve the dreams that we set for ourselves. So I think it's good to take some time to kind of break through these things so that we can have more work-life success.
Now, for our listeners, can you explain a little bit about your background and what's inspired you to go in this direction?
Yeah, absolutely. I've been working in health and wellness for 20 years. I started out studying psychology. I thought maybe I might be a traditional psychologist. I love the mind. I love understanding how it works and the challenges that people face with mental illness and addiction and things like that. And then I got introduced to some really fun holistic stuff when I was in my undergraduate program. I met some healers and massage therapists and different practitioners, and I fell in love with the holistic side of things. I went to massage school. I studied energy medicine. I did yoga trainings. And then I was living out in California, and I had the opportunity to work in some addiction centers and wellness centers and learn about Asian medicine and Ayurvedic medicine, and went on to do my doctoral work in holistic medicine. I interviewed women healers from around the world, from Africa and Asia and South America. I'm really passionate about understanding sort of the history of medicine and wellness. And for the last decade, I've been teaching. I've been a professor of holistic health and mind-body medicine for the last decade. And as part of my work as a professor, I've mentored a lot of students who are coming into the field of health and wellness, and I really wanted to support them in a bigger way. So I created this women in wellness community where I can mentor and teach and coach them about how to build their practice, how to get clients, how to get published or, speak. And it's been a remarkable experience. I really feel like it's sort of passing the baton and kind of helping out, light workers and healers and change makers to kind of really have a bigger impact. So that's the work I've been focused on. I'm having a lot of fun with that, and it's really great, to connect with you and to talk to your audience, because I'm sure there's a lot of people who care about health and wellness and are maybe thinking they want to turn that obsession into a career, and I'm really passionate about helping people do that.
So what are some of the challenges you faced when you first started in the wellness industry?
Lots of challenges. there's so many things. I mean, one of the things that I faced early on was when I was doing my massage training back in 2001. In order to graduate, our professor told us, you have to go out and give 100 massages, which to me, I was like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Who am I supposed to massage? What? Where am I supposed to find these people? And I was living in a high-rise building. I went door to door. I knocked on every door in my building, and I was like, can I please give you a massage? And I got a lot.
You probably got some people looking at you like, wow, what's going on here?
And I had this a massive purple massage table that weighed 30 pounds. And I was just dragging it around please can I massage you? And I got my first client. She was an older woman, and she lived alone. And I would go and I would work on her every week. And slowly but surely, I built up my clientele. But what I learned was that I really had to get out there, and I really had to find the clients and talk to the people and tell people what I was doing. And I see a lot of people who put up a website, or a Facebook page, and then they think, that they've built their business. And my experience is it doesn't work like that. You really have to, for lack of a better word, hustle. You really have to get out there, and you really have to, at least for the first couple of years, continue to invite and promote until, you become more of, a word of mouth person. So that was early on, one of the challenges that I faced was having 0 clients and trying to figure out how to get clients.
Yeah. Well, and an exercise like that, because in my previous life, I was a top insurance manager. And so one of the things we would do is go out cold calling. Yeah, that's not fun, but it really does get you out. And it's pretty much the same thing you were doing, going around knocking on doors, giving massages. It's not really something that most people like to do, but it really gets them out of their shell so that they're able to just be a little bit more confident and maybe be a little bit more outgoing.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And as you continue to grow, you face new challenges. I mean, one of the challenges I faced in the last couple of years was how do I build an online business? Because so much of our lives now, we live in the digital world. And if you don't exist online, it's almost like you don't exist at all. So, every time you master some aspect of, your business or your life for that matter, then new challenges emerge and you have to develop new skills and find new resources and learn new things.
Yeah, and at the same time, it's so important to have that personal connection because even though social media, having that online presence and making sure that you are out there as far as, and having everything set up correctly as far as your social media is concerned, people still, to some degree want to connect and want to meet with the person that they're working with or going to deal with. So they want to have that, that kind of connection.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, I think especially if you're working in health, wellness, or fitness, you have to have a balance between online and offline. You have to get your technology set up and your website and all those things. But I really feel like your community is going to be the basis of the work that you do. Those are really the people who are going to be your most loyal clients and followers and cheerleaders. And so I think one of the things that I see is that sometimes people just stay home and stay on the computer because they're scared of the face-to-face. And, there's lots of little icebreakers and little fun ways that you can connect with people face-to-face. I join a lot of different kinds of groups to get out of my own comfort zone. Like last year I did a year-long training in comedy improv classes. so that I could get in the habit of just kind of improvising in conversation and laughing and being playful. And that really helped me to have even more confidence talking to strangers and being okay with wherever the conversation was going. And, I continued to explore different ways to, challenge myself so that I can improve in my own, speaking, public speaking, networking, and things like that.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things I learned as a new entrepreneur is not take things personally. and having a sense of humor, like as you were discussing, is a real important thing. So, getting back to the topic of repatterning perfectionism, what does that mean? And how can people start implementing ways of doing that?
Right. So, we were talking about challenges earlier, and I think when you're an entrepreneur, or even if you're going through a transition, maybe you're switching jobs or you're thinking about leaving a job and starting your own business, there can be so many decisions to make that you can feel overwhelmed, you can feel confused, and sometimes even like paralyzed. And what I think helps is if you kind of break down the different aspects of fear and how they might be affecting you. Perfectionism is one of about 4 or 5 fears that I think are really prevalent. Perfectionism is when you consistently have thoughts like, I'm not ready, or it's not good enough, or, you find yourself kind of working on things for a really long time. I'm thinking of a client that I have. I was speaking to her yesterday. She's had a book manuscript for 6 years in her hands. And she keeps saying, I don't think it's ready. And I was looking on Amazon, and I see people complain on Amazon, and I'm scared to put it on Amazon. And so, we can get in that habit of imagining all the worst case scenarios for ourselves. And that can be a real obstacle. And so really getting comfortable with recognizing that the first time you do it, you're probably not going to do it great, but that doesn't matter. I talked to her about intention, and about if your intention is to create value for the readers, if your intention is to serve, then that's the thing that's the most important. It's really that you're coming from a place of wanting to give and wanting to create value, and whether or not it's perfect is not that's not the priority.
And perfection is so relative. Perfection's so relative. So what we think is perfect, may not be.
Absolutely. And then I think that there are other fears or other manifestations of fear that affect us. One of them is indecision. We can get so stuck in, I don't know which direction to go. I don't know which choice to make. I don't want to make the wrong decision. I'm scared about the wrong decision. That we can also block ourselves from moving forward. And for that, I think that we really need to slow down and be mindful and go with our gut. I think intuitively we have a really strong sense of what is best for us, for our life, for our business, and developing that self-trust. And knowing that, again, it might not be perfect, but taking action is better than continuing to perpetuate that indecision. So that's another thing that I try to encourage people to move through a bit more quickly. In startup culture, I used to work in a tech startup in New York. It's a very common mantra: fail fast and keep going. It's like you put something out, you see how it works, you take the feedback, you try again, and you don't get stuck in what went wrong or what didn't work. You focus on, what went well and what you did well, and you continue to build on that and build that momentum, and you just keep getting better. And I think that's what we need to do in our work and our life. We need to just fail fast and keep going.
Well, and that could be, better advice right there, because I think a lot of people, that whole fear of failure is what keeps them back from, moving forward. And once it's interesting, once you face something and, and kind of work through it, it's not really as big and scary as as we imagine it will be.
Right. And sometimes terrible things happen. I mean, one of my experiences was about 10 years ago, my friend and I, we decided to open a wellness center in California. We had no business experience. We had no idea what we were doing. We had no business plan, but there was like a local space that was available, and we rented it, and we ran a center for a year, and we quickly realized what we didn't know. I mean, we quickly realized how little we knew about, hiring people and managing things and doing bookkeeping and doing marketing. And so, we made it through the year. We decided not to keep going, but I definitely don't feel that I have regret about that. What I feel is that it was, a very quick immersion and acceleration of, this is what it is to run a business. This is what's critical. These are all the pieces. And that experience has stayed with me for 10 years and helped me, to be a better entrepreneur and to have more insight for my clients about the stuff that they're building and the things they need to take into consideration. So even if you have something that seems like a big disaster, I think that you can mine those things for a lot of insight, for a lot of wisdom, for lessons that, you can use going forward. And I mean, all entrepreneurs would tell you that they fail over and over and over again before they have success.
Yeah, I look back at my first business and, I know what to do right because I've done everything wrong, and figured out, okay, that didn't work. So these are the things that do. So, well, so I know that you also talk about, the four, like fear-based habits that hold us back. What are those? What are some of those?
Right. So we talked about perfectionism and indecision a little bit. There's a few more that I see that are kind of popular. One of them is procrastination.
Not that one.
Facebook. Spending a lot of time on social media, or like you finally create that space in your calendar, like you finally like cut back the hours at your job, or like set that time to finish that book or whatever you're working on, and then all of a sudden, like, it seems really important to do the laundry. Like, I really have to do the laundry. You find so many ways to kind of avoid things, and I do it myself. Like, it never goes away. You have to catch it, and you have to recognize it. One statistic that comes to mind is that 80% of college students and 20% of adults are plagued by procrastination. So it's like, it's a common issue.
Number,
yeah. So, one thing that I do is I stop and I recognize it. I really pay attention. If I notice that something keeps getting moved from to-do list, day after day, I stop and I recognize it. I ask for help. I create a support system. I reach out to friends and I say, hey, can you hold me accountable for this? One of the reasons I created the community that I have, this mastermind community, is because I have all these women in there who want to be held accountable for the things that they're working on, and they recognize that left to their own devices, it's going to take a lot longer to kind of break through some of those, fearful, uncomfortable feelings and get things done. So procrastination is something that we have to face and overcome. Another one is being busy. Sometimes we think because we're really busy that we're being productive. But busy and productive are not the same thing.
I think a lot of people suffer from that. They think, well, my schedule's so booked. And I used to have agents that would do that all the time, and we'd have to go through and go, okay, what are you really doing here? What's really going on?
Right. Yeah, there's lots of ways to stay busy. Busy doesn't necessarily mean productive. It could mean that it's just another distraction or another form of procrastination. So it requires some like radical honesty with yourself about like, okay, what am I really doing? And, as you're accomplishing things, really celebrating the wins. Because if you can look forward to that next celebration and you can look forward like, I'm going to do a spa day once I write this, course, or once I finish this manuscript, or whatever your thing is, looking forward to those wins, can keep you a little bit more focused on the goal and the celebration. And then the last one that I see that shows up a lot is a type of fear that kind of manifests as like anxiety, fatigue, like this sort of this kind of heaviness, sometimes like panic attacks, or, it can be a very kind of physical, visceral thing. And oftentimes I see those types of fears manifesting when self-care has kind of fallen by the wayside. So it's easy to kind of sit at your desk and just drink coffee all day and not get the exercise and the food and stuff that you need, but that can quickly devolve into, some kind of like real physical, uncomfortable things, even physical pain, or, just kind of sedentary lifestyle, sedentary problems. So I've had to be very mindful about actually putting the time in my calendar, like from this time to this time is my fitness, and from this time to this time I'm eating lunch with someone, so that I can keep the self-care a priority. And I think for entrepreneurs, that's like a huge challenge, because we're working for ourselves and we're so driven and so passionate. It's easy to just overwork and let those other things kind of fall apart. So I think that's something that's really important to take care of.
And a lot of times what I've noticed is if people, like new entrepreneurs, if they're only focused on the financial aspect of it, and so, I mean, if, it's kind of like a person drowning, a lot of times I'll tell them get a part-time job so they don't have to worry about finances, so that they can really be present and not have that money anxiety that a lot of times kind of piggybacks on being a new entrepreneur.
I totally agree with you. I don't think that you should be operating from a place of like desperation and neediness, because people will feel that. People will feel if your messaging and your communication and everything is coming from that place, and you really want to be grounded and strong and stable. And if it's a money thing, I always recommend that you find some way to finance what you're doing so that you can feel that stability. It's just a better, safer, healthier way to kind of to build what you're building.
So how does, I think the one we haven't really touched on is really indecision. So if you get somebody to how does that play part in success or failure for a new business entrepreneur?
Yeah, I think indecision, I see it a lot in women who are looking to sort of please the people around them or get approval. And we need to really cultivate an internal radar, an internal compass, and we need to, I just wrote a blog post about this like a few days ago. We need to focus on pleasing ourselves. We need to set those parameters for what a good, healthy life and business looks like. And we need to stay close to that in our decision making. And it's easy to kind of get swayed, especially with all the social media, oh, well, she's doing that, maybe I should do that. And he's doing that, maybe I should do that. And when we start to compare ourselves to the people around us, we can get really off track. I think we need to focus on our internal parameters and values and stay close to that and not get too consumed with what other people are doing, comparing ourselves to others, because that really inflames the indecision and it doesn't help us to kind of stay on our course. Yeah,
I'd agree with you on that. I think a lot of times when I've seen new entrepreneurs, when they come and they work with me, if they don't have that 100% faith in what it is that they can do, and they know that they've got the best thing out there since sliced bread, that it's going to be a little bit of a journey for them to kind of work through their business, because if they're seeking approval outside, they're never really going to have a fulfilled experience with their business.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, well, and that kind of brings me to like my next question, which is, okay, so we've got these fear habits. What are some of the ways that we can work on overcoming them, like as a group? Let's say you meet with somebody and they're like, oh, I've got all this going on. I'm being busy, pain and anxiety, procrastination, perfectionism, indecision. I've got the whole thing. So what would you suggest to them?
You're like
I can identify with all that.
I think some of these things we can manage on our own, creating the healthy self-care routine, practicing mindfulness, having like some kind of meditation practice or something that you do to quiet your mind and to reflect and do introspection. There's lots of, healthy tools. I'm someone that does a lot of yoga and physical exercise. I think there's a lot of ways that we can work on it individually, but I think what's really critical is having support. When I wrote my doctoral dissertation many years ago, I interviewed women healers from all over the world, and they had all been practicing for, 10 or more years, and they had seen thousands of patients. And when I asked them, tell me, as a young healer, what are the kind of critical things that I need to make sure that I have in place for this journey that I'm on? Like, what do I need to be successful? Across the board, the first and foremost thing that everyone told me was you need to have support. You need to have support. And so I've built a lot of my work as a professor and a coach and a mentor around the idea of support. And I think support is specific in the sense that you need to be with like-minded people. You need to be with people who make you feel heard and seen and understood. You need to be in a community where you feel like you can be authentic and vulnerable. You need to get feedback that empowers you and doesn't make you, dependent or reliable. You need a community that doesn't give you prescriptions necessarily, but like lets you find your own way and helps you kind of see your blind spots or see things that you don't necessarily see for yourself. I mean, there's so many reasons why support's important and how community can create that for you. So I myself participate in communities, like I have mastermind communities that I participate in, and I have, my close group of entrepreneur girlfriends that I meet with on a daily basis. And I facilitate community. I have a community of women that I facilitate and mentor support so that they can have a space where they can get together and they can have these conversations and they can exchange information. I think another aspect of community that's really important is a place where you can collaborate and not compete. If you find yourself at different, quote unquote, community events, like maybe it's like a chamber or, a professional association, and you feel that there's like a lot of competition as opposed to like, cross referrals and cross promotion and collaborations, then that's not really going to foster the kind of strength and growth that you need to grow and to expand and develop. So I participate and I cultivate spaces that really foster that kind of collaboration versus the competition. So, I mean, that's something that I think is really critical and really important for all the things that we're talking about. Because, if you're just on this path alone, it's going to take a lot longer and be a lot harder. And actually, I don't know if it's possible. I don't know if it's possible, really.
Yeah, that island of me doesn't really work out so well, right?
Right?
Yeah. And, and that's, these principles aren't something, the way that you put this together is, I think, very helpful, and these tools are great. And when you talk about like mastermind groups, that's something that's been going back since like Napoleon Hill's Key to Success. I mean, they talk about his book, Key to Success. They talk about, developing that mastermind group and really how important it is to have people who have that shared desire because they help propel you forward. So having that is a good thing. So, I know that you have a community that you kind of briefly touched on earlier, Women in Wellness. Why don't you share a little bit about that for our listeners?
Yeah. My passion is supporting healers, and to me, healers is, health and wellness coaches and massage therapists and personal trainers and hypnotherapists and yoga teachers. And I mean, it's the light workers, it's the uplifters, it's the, people who are trying to make the world a better place, the social entrepreneurs. Those people are my people. I love them, and I love helping them. And one of the things that I recognize, because I've been a professor for so long and I've had so many students, I noticed that they were developing their craft. They were, learning how to be great healers or writers or teachers. But then when it came to actually coming out into the marketplace and doing the business and marketing side of things, they were really struggling to find their voice, to create their story, to capture the essence of what they do in a clear way through images and branding. And I mean, there was just like a lot of challenges. And so I wanted just to create a place where they could get really affordable, accessible support. And I initially actually tried to do it through the university where I was teaching, and it wasn't possible because they're very kind of singular focused in the curriculum. And it's like, if you're studying holistic health and you want to learn business, then go get an MBA.
It's a different thing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a different thing. But it's not that you need an MBA. It's just like that you need some kind of basic fundamental business and marketing skills if you're going to be an entrepreneur. And so I wanted to create some place where we could do that and I could teach what I've learned, and also that, the women could learn from each other. And one of the reasons why I created a community just for women is because I've been very passionate about women gathering for a long, long time. In my undergraduate work, I wrote about women and body image and eating disorders and things. And then in my master's thesis, I wrote about women in technology and the kind of the gender gap. And then in my doctoral work, I wrote about, women healers and women in healing professions throughout the centuries. And I've always felt like a real calling to support and empower women, because I think there's something really unique and special about us. And I think that we need to get up to speed with our confidence, with our self-worth, and with our skill sets so that we can show up more fully in the world and have a bigger impact. So I very intentionally created a community for women healers so that we could all uplift each other and empower each other to do better work and to create more impact in the world. So we have weekly calls, we have weekly video calls, and we get on the phone every week and we brainstorm and we troubleshoot and we love and support each other. And then I work privately with people if they have like a specific project they're working on, like developing an online course or writing a book or giving a talk or something. And it's really been just so juicy and fun to gather with women in this way and to have these conversations. It's just really, it's really exciting, to do the stuff that I'm doing right now. I really enjoy it.
Well, thank you, Dr. Gabby, for taking the time to be on the show with us today. Where can our listeners find you? What's the best website for them to reach you at?
Yeah, the website you can find me at is women-in-wellness.com, women-in-wellness.com. You can find me all over social media at Dr. Gabby Pelicci, Pelicci. And to any of the listeners that are listening, I offer free discovery sessions, which is, a 20-minute conversation to talk about whatever's happening with you. It's not a sales call. It's just an opportunity to kind of, jam a little bit together on whatever thing you're facing right now. We could talk about any of the fear-based things that we discussed. If you're facing perfectionism or procrastination or something, we could talk about that. So, yeah, please get in touch and let me know how I can support you.
Great. We're all out of time today, Dr. Gabby. I really appreciate you being here with us and sharing your insights with us. We're going to pause here for a quick break, and we'll be right back after these messages.
Internationally recognized and award-winning author Judy Goodman works and teaches outside the box of limited thinking. Working with people from every walk of life, her goal is to empower you to be the best you can be, no matter what the challenge is. Born with the gift of seeing beyond our normal vision, she has an extraordinary gift of working with every challenge. Teaching beyond conventional wisdom, her work is described as life-changing. Visit judygoodman.com. That's judygoodman.com.
There comes a moment when you realize you're somewhere special, when you discover that each beautiful creature that you see has been rescued from a life of absolute horror and brought to this incredibly free place. Here's where their lives were forever changed and where yours will as well. Discover over 500 tigers, bears, and lions at the brand new visitor center at the Wild Animal Sanctuary just outside Denver. For more information, visit wildanimalsanctuary.org. Discover true freedom at the Wild Animal Sanctuary.
I know we are unlimited, not only because I healed myself of chronic disease in only 3 weeks, but because I know what has helped thousands of my clients transform their own lives. My book, A Short Path to Change, 30 Ways to Transform Your Life, offers 30 easy and quick tools you can use to help transform any aspect of your life. Visit and subscribe to my site, JennyMannion.com, JennyMannion.com, for free gifts, including a guided healing meditation and the first chapter of my book. I look forward to offering you easy ways to help you get clear for the new year.
Have you ever had the sense that your thoughts might actually be doing something? Ancient secrets of manifesting have been masterfully revealed in the award-winning book Manifesting 1-2-3 by Ken Elliott. For the first time, the author's experiences and stories in this book describe exactly how your thoughts can create anything. You've been doing this all your life, but it's never been fully explained for you until now. Visit manifesting123.com for more information today. Manifesting123.com.
Ben Wexler is a gifted leadership development and strategy consultant for professionals who want to transform their organizations and careers. Through a uniquely personalized set of processes, participants discover their unique knowledge, how to leverage that knowledge and experience, and then put it all together with a global strategy. You're more valuable, your organization is more valuable, and the change is viral. Contact Ben at 630-881-1074. 630-881-1074.
Welcome back to Moments with Marianne. Our next guest, Dr. Linda Lehrhaupt, is here today to talk to us about her new book, Mindfulness-Based Stress Reduction. This is otherwise known as MBSR. So it's a program for enhancing health and vitality. So let's welcome to the show, Dr. Linda.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
Oh, it's such a joy to have you here. So I'm real excited, and I've got lots of questions for you in regards to your new book, Mindfulness-Based Stress Reduction. And I know this is something you've been practicing for quite some time.
Yes.
Okay.
Would you like to know more?
Why not? Hey, and I'm always very curious at what inspires people to write the books that they write and brings them to this point. So what was the main inspiration for this book? And I know you're a co-author on this book.
Mm-hmm, I am. Well, Mindfulness-Based Stress Reduction is a program developed by Professor Dr. John Kabat-Zinn at the University of Massachusetts Medical Center, and it first started in 1979. Mm-hmm. And it is really, I would say, the mother and father of all the mindfulness-based programs that have been developed since then. So mindfulness-based stress reduction usually takes place in the form of an 8-week course where people come once a week for 8 weeks in usually sessions between 2.5 and 3 hours. And it's an intensive training in mindfulness meditation to support people in working with stress, with illness, with chronic pain, with the challenges that life presents to us as human beings on this earth. And it teaches mindfulness practice first through doing formal exercises for example, what we call a body scan. There's also learning a 45-minute sequence of gentle yoga exercises where the emphasis is not on physical prowess, but more about using yoga as a support for cultivating mindful awareness. There's also the formal practice of learning a sitting meditation, and finally, walking meditation. And participants are supported throughout the program with audio exercises of these formal exercises. There's also what we call the informal exercises, where people receive certain kind of practices to allow them to integrate mindfulness into everyday life. After session 1, there's an exercise in mindful eating. After section 2, there's an exercise in doing a daily activity, such as ironing or brushing one's teeth, as a mindfulness exercise. And furthermore, each week has a theme in which people begin to look at how mindfulness can play a role in supporting them in meeting life in a way which is active, which is vital, which is not ignoring difficult circumstances, but really having the resources to be with life in a way which is very supportive, engaging, and in a sense, life-giving, even if one is either very ill or facing a very stressful time, or perhaps another event has happened in their life, like losing their job or losing a loved one. These are all life's challenges. And very often, when we're so stressed, and we can define what stress is, but when we're feeling overwhelmed or when we're feeling that we're running on empty, we often lose the capacity to be present to our life in a way which allows us not simply to exist, but also to live. So I wanted to kind of place the book in context of, we're describing the mindfulness-based stress reduction program. We're also giving background information about what is stress, how mindfulness can help people work with stress. And we also follow each week of the course, not so much in terms of doing every exercise, but more, what are the themes of the course? What are the themes of each week? For example, week 6 in a course is about mindful communication, which, by the way, difficulties in communication are among the top 5 causes of stress in our lives. Surveys have been done to show this. And so we teach and explore ways in class how to practice, for example, mindful communication or mindfulness of the body. In week 3, we begin to explore the theme how so often we push ourselves beyond our physical boundaries. And everyone can do that for a while, but at some time the body knows the score and it begins to backfire. Well, how can we mindfully be in our bodies and treat ourselves in a way that will not cause us to reach our boundary and harm ourselves or make ourselves very ill or tired, but skillfully be mindful? So that's a little bit about what the book is about. And it's meant for people who might be thinking about taking a course. It may be for people who are already in a course, and there are many tens of thousands of people who are now participating in MBSR courses throughout the world. And it's also meant if you're just kind of interested in the subject about mindfulness and how it can help me or help one live a life where there is meaning and a sense of connection.
And I think I can completely understand. There's such a rise in the mindfulness, community. It's kind of like the hot topic now. And I think a lot of people get a little confused when we talk about mindfulness on what that is and what that's not. And I really appreciate that your book described what mindfulness is not. Do you often find there's confusion around that practice?
Well, I think the best way of my answering your question is to just give a general working definition that we use in mindfulness-based stress reduction and also in our programs, and then explain a little bit more in detail what I think you're asking. Mm-hmm. So within the MBSR community, and myself particularly, I like to use the definition that was established by Dr. John Kabat-Zinn, and there's been various definitions, but this is a relatively basic one and very profound one at the same time. So mindfulness, and I'm quoting, mindfulness is the awareness that arises when we pay attention on purpose in the present moment, non-judgmentally, and we like to add with kindness. So I'll repeat that just to have a kind of a basis. Mindfulness is the awareness that arises when we pay attention on purpose in the present moment, non-judgmentally, and with an element of kindness and gentleness, one could also say. So some of the confusion that is arising in the use of the term mindfulness is that it's being applied to a whole bunch of things. Mm-hmm. But the context in which I work and in which MBSR is embedded is a scientifically validated program where there is a clear curriculum, where there is a clear methodology and training of teachers specifically to teach these mindfulness-based approaches. They have been researched, they have been evaluated. There's a tremendous amount of experience that has gone into the development of these programs. It's now, it's almost 40 years that mindfulness-based stress reduction is being taught. And so it is a clear program that is training and supporting people to practice and to be able to use mindfulness as a resource in their daily lives, in meeting stress, illness, pain, and life in general. Mindfulness is something that all human beings have and have the capacity. But what happens is that through challenges, through busyness, through demands that are made on us, through the complications of everyday life, and in the last 20 years, and even more in the last 10 years, the kind of environment that is created by internet, by social media, et cetera, that the speed of life and the capacity to be present in our lives is extremely challenged. And the tendency to be distracted, to be there multiple demands on our awareness, has really kind of debilitated or had a negative impact on our capacity to cultivate this awareness. Why is it important? Mm-hmm. Why should people bother to practice mindfulness? Well, I can only say that many, many people who come into the program, when you would ask them, why have you decided to take this course? It's usually their explanation will fall into the following. I have a feeling that my life is running away from me. Or I have a feeling that I am being driven and I don't know where anymore. Or I've lost a sense of connection to what's important in life. And I seem to be spending a lot of time getting very heavily involved in things which, when I have a moment, I realize maybe that's not the best use of my time. Rather than doing another thing, maybe I should take some time to spend with my family. Or maybe I should take time, rather than stuffing food down to get from one place to another, maybe I can find 10 minutes or even 15 minutes to sit down quietly or with friends and eat a meal. When I'm working 12, it starts with a bit of overtime, and then it becomes a bit more, and then it becomes a bit more, so that without slowly thinking about it, we're regularly working 12 to 14 hours a day, going home, falling into bed, getting up, and back at work, even if we're working at home as a freelancer. And it becomes a cycle that almost becomes self-driven. We talk in mindfulness training about going on automatic pilot, where we go through the day, or as one person spoke, I want to go from existing to living. Mm-hmm. And that quality of not being able to really just be present, to even take the time to take one breath, or at the moment out my window, I see that the sun is going down and the light is changing. And there's something incredibly powerful about just watching as the light colors begin to change and the tree is dancing a little bit in the wind. And I think it's my practice that in a way allows me to take that in rather than just looking up quickly, turning away, and getting back to what's now. These moments of connecting. It's not about being hooked or turned on all the time, which oftentimes people misunderstand about mindfulness. They think it's kind of, like you put on a switch and you're suddenly mindful. But it's more about, can I really be present when I choose to be or when I need to be? And how can that enrich my life in a way that perhaps I haven't been experiencing? So it is a skill. It is you can say in one sense, it's not the only, but you can say it's a mental skill or a cognitive skill that one can cultivate, that one can learn, and that one practice. And all those elements are important. That we can learn it, we can reawaken it, because often as children, we have a natural capacity to be mindful because there's not so much distraction, although the stress levels among children have risen astronomically, as studies have shown us, and the problems that are attached with it. But when we can simply be with something, looking at a flower or even playing with a toy, there is that kind of conscious involvement, not daydreaming, conscious practice of being there. So that's what we train in mindfulness-based stress reduction and other, may I say, bona fide mindfulness-based programs, many of which have grown out of MBSR. But there has also been a jumping on the bandwagon of mindfulness. And in some ways it's being presented as a cure-all, as a panacea, as something that's very light, as something that you can just wish for and it will be there. And in that sense, that's not what we're doing when we're talking about mindfulness training. Do you understand a little bit what I'm hinting at?
I understand this quite a bit, actually.
All right.
Yeah. So, but I really appreciate your description of like mindfulness and what it is and what it's not, because a lot of times when people start their mindfulness training, they think that they need to visualize or imagine things when it's really being, and kind of gets into my next question, it's expanding on their awareness. And so when we talk about MBSR and awareness, how does that play a role?
Well, the other things that you were talking about, such as visualization, or the other thing that you mentioned, within a well-structured program and taught in a skillful way, they are other forms of practice. They are not mindfulness practice, but they can be very bona fide. Okay, so I don't want to, depending on, again, if they're within a concrete and well-taught program. But in mindfulness, we are training an awareness that is rooted in the present moment. We are also becoming aware, that part of the definition, paying attention on purpose. That's much different from an awareness that is just, we're going through the day, but we're not really there. Let's take an example. The first exercise in the MBSR program is fairly well known these days. It's called the raisin exercise. And what we do is we explore a raisin through the five senses. And to begin with, it's not uncommon that people kind of raise their eyebrows when you hand around raisins and ask them to look at them and ask them to feel them and ask them to taste them and ask them to actually listen to them, which usually raises the biggest kind of eyebrows. How can you listen to a raisin? But we guide people through this exercise. And what happens is if you begin to really focus your awareness on a raisin and say, well, what do you notice? What are you observing? people begin to see the wrinkles, the colors. Sometimes they hold it up to the light and they see that there's actually something inside, which is usually a part of the stem when it's been taken from the vine. They can see the colors, they can see it's transparent, and then they begin to touch it. And most of the times we grab a bunch of raisins and we throw them in our mouth. But if you really take the time to touch it, you notice that it's sometimes sticky, it's rough on the skin, sometimes it's smooth. It has a whole other quality to it. So what we're doing is unpacking exploring through the senses, all the different things that we normally don't become aware of. And we do that. The last thing we do is to place the raisin in the mouth, and the instruction is, don't bite down on it. And people really, they're so used to putting something in their mouth and just chewing. And when we ask them not, they notice all different kinds of things. For example, how the mouth prepares to digest. There's suddenly an explosion of saliva, or there's a sense of, you feel the kind of, I want to bite, but no, don't bite. Just explore, what does it feel like to have an object in the mouth, which you know is food. And then the very last thing is to taste it. And we invite people to then chew as slowly as possible the raisin until there's nothing more left. Mm-hmm. And afterwards we discuss, we open up for discussion about what have people experienced. And what so often comes up, one of the first things most people either think or say is, wow, I never knew how sweet a raisin was.
It's interesting how such a simple thing can bring such a great practice.
It's found what people experience. Another thing that people say is, I notice how when I slow down, I experience this food completely different. And what happens in the various responses, and in the book we go into quite a bit of detail about what generally people experience. It's not far when people go from what they're experiencing in the raisin to, well, if I never noticed how sweet a raisin is, what about the moments of my life? Mm-hmm. Or if I'm always on, at the top speed that I can be, what am I missing? And another thing that's very important that we introduce in that exercise is what we call beginner's mind, which is the capacity, and it is a capacity, to meet something or be with something in a very new way. Even if you've done it 60 million times, is it possible to maybe do something for the first time? To raise that kind of awareness, which has a curiosity about it, and a willingness to let go of what one knows so strongly, to be open to perhaps a new experience or a new perspective, which not only can really enrich life for people, but it's also a tremendous help when perhaps you're facing a difficulty or a challenge or a problem that needs to be solved. Perhaps being able to step back a bit and looking at it in a new way, in a fresh way, is tremendously helpful for being with life and with situations. So that's, again, we're supporting people. What are the qualities of mindfulness practice that we can be introduced to through the raisin exercise, which are then explored in further detail throughout the program? And giving people an opportunity, rather than to be told what mindfulness is, to really experience it for themselves.
Thank you again, Dr. Linda, for taking the time to be on the show with us today. Unfortunately, we are out of time. If you'd like to connect with Dr. Linda, you can do so at her website, mindfulness-based-teacher-project.org. So I'd like to thank everyone for taking the time to tune in today. And remember, make every moment count.
Join us next time for Moments with Marianne, when host Marianne Pestana brings another inspirational gifted leader to help us grow. Tune in every second Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time for Moments with Marianne, when the Dream Vision 7 radio network is at 1510 a.m. Boston. Or catch Moments with Marianne every Thursday and Friday at 5 p.m. and 5 a.m. Eastern Time by going to dreamvision7radio.com. To learn how Marianne started her business from the ground up, visit mariannepestana.com. Don't miss this, and remember, make every moment count.